violently effective, they are extremely lethal. Cluster bombs, seen here in U.S. Defense Department video. Keep your eye on what falls from that plane, the dark speck plummeting toward the ground. Watch carefully because in midair it explodes. Seen here in slow motion, releasing a crowd of smaller but still deadly munitions known as bomblets, which, now back to regular speed video, in turn spread out and can blast a target the size of a football field. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says the U.S. will now give Ukraine thousands of them.
We will not leave Ukraine defenseless at any point in this conflict, period.
But they are hugely controversial, banned by more than 100 countries, including Canada, because of the threat they pose to civilians, not least from unexploded ordnance abandoned in the ground, sometimes for years.
What happens, these bombs drop little bomblets. Some of them are mistaken as toys, picked up by children with devastating consequences. So there's got to be other ways to push back the Russians.
It doesn't make it an easy decision, and I'm not going to.
In defending the move, the U.S. underlined Russia's been firing its own cluster bombs at Ukraine throughout the war, and giant swaths of land will need to be demined regardless whether Ukraine now does likewise. As well, the U.S. bombs are said to pose less of a long-term risk. Still, the U.S. acknowledges that risk remains.
But there is also a massive risk of civilian harm if Russian troops and tanks roll over Ukrainian positions and take more Ukrainian territory and subjugate more Ukrainian civilians because Ukraine does not have enough artillery. That is intolerable to us.
Indeed, as Joe Biden puts it, Ukraine simply needs firepower.
We've run out of ammunition.
Paul, we know Canada has banned cluster bombs, so what are we hearing from Ottawa about this today?
Yeah, well, it's a complicated dance, isn't it? Canada obviously strongly supports Ukraine, and there's no closer ally to the U.S. than Canada. But as well, Canada has long seen itself as a global leader in the pushback against these kinds of munitions. In a statement made after the U.S. announcement, Canada underscored its opposition to cluster bombs broadly, but made no mention of the action now taken by the U.S. Renee.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.